never met me before, I am a diocesan consultant who the bishop asked to come in here and work with Christ Church and move you forward. I have a few things I'd like to talk about this morning. The first thing is community. The second thing I'm going to talk about is the work that I've done here. And the third thing I'm going to talk about are what are the next steps. And then lastly, I want to do a quick little commercial for people who are discerning whether or not they want to run for vestry. I spend a lot of time in my work thinking about community and what that means. And as some of you may know, in the other half of my life, when I'm not doing church work, what I'm doing is responding to disasters across the country. I've been doing disaster work for more than 40 years. And what that means is that when there's a hurricane or an earthquake or a terrorism event, I'm the one running in when everybody else is running out. But what I've thought about this a lot, and I've done a lot of teaching in my work. And I always ask people, what drives you to want to do this work? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is because I want to help communities recover. Part of what I do in my church work is help communities recover. Because generally I don't show up, as the Reverend and Gail well know, unless there has been some sort of an issue. And so my driver for the work that I do with churches is all about community and restoration of community and building community and wanting people to be happy and fulfilled and vibrant in community. So we have chosen to be part of the community of the Episcopal Church. And you have further chosen to be part of the community of Christ Church Clinton. And what does that mean? That means that we seek to be together in beloved community to do the work Christ asked us to do and to bring the good word forward to the world. You chose that. You choose it every time you show up. You choose it every time you do something on behalf of this parish. Whether it's dropping your gift in the basket on Sunday or sending it via Zelle. It is about being part of something bigger than yourself. And what do we know about community? We know that we are gathered. Who's here? When we are all gathered together, God is here with us every single time. And so the bonds of our beloved community are bringing God to us. That's our chosen community, right? And maybe some of you, how many of you are bridge players? Anybody? One. We got one good bridge player. Anybody sing in a choir other than over here? You sing in another group. So those are your chosen communities, right? You want to choose. Some of you, I don't know, you have communities obviously with your families as well. So what happens when something happens to our community and our community suffers some sort of setback, some sort of damage, some sort of dis-ease, and I don't mean in the sickness sense, I mean a sense of unease that something is not working correctly. our community when that kind of thing happens. And the bonds of our beloved community start to fray. And in my work over the last, I've been doing church work for about 30 years. What happens is that while we still want to be part of community, we let our egos and fear take over. And we start acting out of the ego, the fear of change, the fear of something being different that we don't understand. And the bonds of community start to fray. And I see some people shaking their heads. They don't agree. And I understand that. And yet the fact remains that we're sitting here trying to be part of community. And what that means is that we should seek to rebuild the bonds. There has been damage done in this parish. And I gave a report to the vestry, and part of why I'm standing up here is because we want to make sure that everybody understands what I've been doing for the last four months or so. And so what I've been doing for the last 4 months is interviewing a bunch of people. I ultimately interviewed just about everybody on the vestry. I'm pretty sure I get everybody on the vestry. And then a few other select people who are not on the vestry. And I ultimately talked to about 18 people. And some people called me back 2 or 3 times, which was great because the more information I have, the better assessment I can make about what's happening here. And I found in those conversations that there were sort of 2 camps. One was, none of this is working, I'm very upset, I hate it, I'm gonna leave. And the other one was, this seems to be going fairly well. So I'm good, I'm happy in this community. So when I look at those differences, I look at why. My task is to look at why those differences exist. And I look at, again, how to repair them. Sometimes you can't repair. And the beloved community takes a hit, and somebody decides to leave. And that changes the whole tenor of the community. It is the case that happens routinely. When I work with churches that are having difficulties, I find that's the case. Sometimes people just can't live with change, and they don't want to stay anymore. So my work was designed to unearth what was going on, and my work was designed to make a set of recommendations about what we could do to repair the bonds of the community. And so the next steps are for, and I still have to write this up. I haven't written it up yet, Gail. The next steps are for me to do some coaching with the Reverend and Gail, for me to work with the vestry, the new vestry, in talking through how to work together in that subset of community here at Christ Church. And my next steps are to, if people are amenable, those people who were very upset about what they perceive to be going on here, I am happy to do interventions and what I call straight up conflict resolution in terms of sitting down with people and trying to dig out where the conflicts came from. So those are my next steps. We haven't talked about, and I typically, what I do is ultimately we'll have an all-parish meeting, and I will talk through some details, and then what the parish at large is, what the community's role is in moving forward. So we'll get there. That's part of the next steps. I want to say a couple of things about being on the vestry. I really would like to see every single hand in this hall go up, in this church go up, and tell me you're all going to run for vestry. But I know that's not going to happen. Is it? Is everybody going to run for vestry? We'll have the best election we've ever had. So, for those of you who are discerning whether or not you want to be part of the vestry, here's my word about community and being part of the vestry. There are canonical things that the vestry is required to do, right? They manage the money, they manage the property, they manage hiring and firing, they manage all of that process. But one of the biggest things that they do is make sure that the desires of the congregation, of this beloved community, are reflected in the work that the vestry says we're going to do. And the only way to be effective is to learn how to work together effectively and in community. Which ultimately for me, because I like rules. I like rules a lot. You know, you have ground rules. You know, how are we going to talk to each other? We're not going to yell. How are we going to talk to each other? We're going to make sure every single person at the table gets heard. And so I like to put forth ground rules for the vestry. And know that that's one of the things I'll be recommending as part of the next steps. So if you're thinking about running for vestry, discern this notion while you're waiting for the Spirit to tell you what to do. And that is that the vestry is not about you as an individual and what you want. The vestry is about collaborative work in community to accomplish the mission and the vision of this parish. That's the job. Plus do all the canonical things that are required. So, my work here I don't think is done, but my first phase is done. And my wish for this congregation is that we can move forward with holding each other with grace and respect and love, which is what we are called to do when we come to community, right? And not let our own personal needs get in the way of the vibrancy and the light that shines from this community. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for listening to me this morning. I really had prepared about 4 hours worth of conversation, but that was a joke, people. 4 hours, yes. I could talk for 4 hours. I have talked for 4 hours without stopping. part of your community for a short while, and I hope to do that. Thank you.